Welcome back to SHOT Show TV. I'm Larry Keane, Senior Vice President and General Counselor for the National Shooting Sports Foundation. And I'm joined now by my good friend Julie Golob, a professional competitive shooter, and Frank Miniter, Fox News contributor, columnist, but an all-around great guy. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on and has been going on under the Trump administration with the Department of Interior and all the great work that the former Secretary Zinke has done to open up access and opportunity for hunting and shooting on public lands, which I think you would agree has been tremendous.
Absolutely. It's so exciting to see the government interested in shooting sports and hunting and expanding them and the opportunities for everybody. It's a really exciting time, and we've done quite a bit.
Yeah, we sure have. And Frank, I mean, your perspective?
I sure do. And you run into pressure. The only pressure I'm really seeing isn't from people out there, which I hunt a lot of public lands in the West. You do run into a lot of people and some great interactions with them. But it's actually some of the public shooting that happens where target practice, plinking, these kinds of things. There's been pressure in some forests and a lot of lobbying back and forth with some of the fights on those particular issues, which are critical and important. It's a part of us to be able to go out there and shoot on these public lands.
Right.
You know, Julie and I have the opportunity to serve together on the, it's a long name, I'll just call it the Federal Advisory Committee for Hunting and the Shooting Sports, which is working with others in the space, stakeholders, to try to help give guidance and recommendations to the Secretary of Interior and Secretary of Agriculture about how they can improve access and opportunity for hunting and shooting on public lands. And so that's been a great privilege to serve on that. And you know, we've already had many meetings and made a number of recommendations to try to gauge where they are on these prior executive orders to make access and opportunity better and to come up with new ways to improve that. So that's been a great opportunity.
It has been, and my life as a professional shooter doesn't involve a lot of legislative stuff. I'm more of a user type, and just to be able to give a perspective to the committee and to learn. I've learned so much in just a short amount of time of how much we affect wildlife conservation and all of that everywhere.
Yeah, I mean so much public land has been opened up and made accessible under this administration. I mean, record numbers. I mean, millions and millions of acres of public land that have been made available. And there's more work to do to increase access and opportunity, both in the West in particular where the government owns so much of the land, and particularly I think for target shooting, because people forget that the excise tax that manufacturers pay on firearms and ammunition applies to all firearms and ammunition in the commercial market. So people that buy firearms for target shooting and never go hunting are still funding conservation. In fact, the bulk of conservation funding from the Pittman-Robertson excise tax comes from the sale of firearms and ammunition products used for target shooting self-defense. So we've always thought it was very important to get access to public land for public target shooting, like on BLM land. And we're trying to work to get closures of land reopened. And that's really important because they deserve a return on their investment in conservation. So.
No, it's
I think we forget that a lot, that about 80% of the people who own guns and shoot are not hunters, or even more than 80%.
Exactly.
They're funding this stuff. Everyone around us, not everyone is a hunter, but if you're a gun owner and you're shooting, recreationally or what have you, you're funding these important programs of conservation. I think people should be proud of that and understand that. Yeah,
that's right. Well, that's why, for example, one of the priority pieces of legislation for the National Shooting Sports Foundation is the Target Practice and Marksmanship Act. We shortened that to the range bill. That would just simply change the statutory formula in Pittman-Robertson to allow state fish and game agencies who receive the money from Interior, from Fish and Wildlife, to use those monies in a more flexible manner to build and enhance existing shooting ranges to create more opportunities for public shooting opportunities. So the bill it does no impact on the budget, doesn't raise the tax, just allows more flexibility, lowers the match, so the states don't have to put up as much money, and extends the time period they can use those monies. And that was an outgrowth of a conversation NSSF had with the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. Exactly on your point, Frank, that we need to see more access and opportunity. We're paying the excise tax. Our customers are, target shooters, and they deserve a return on their investment, which is good for everybody. The rising tide, floats all boats.
I take a lot of kids hunting, especially. and I tell them I'm going to bring them onto public land in New York State, where I live.
Right.
They go turkey hunting or deer hunting, and they're public land. Really, is this going to be any good? But if you do your research, you find it's great public access out there, and public lands out there, but it's not always the best access. We have to fight for that, especially in New York State. There's some places you have to park a mile away and walk. It actually, you end up with these little corners where you can actually, if you do all the research, you can find great places to hunt. But it's there, and the New York State, in particular, is doing good things, but too often there are huge chunks of property that we don't have access to, or at least it's hard to get access to, especially for someone who doesn't really hunt, doesn't know how to go through that process to find those ways in. The West is the same way. It's such a patchwork. Finding those places to hunt, it can be hard.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of, like part of the Sportsman's package that unfortunately didn't get through last Congress, but we're going to work on that again. Would create permanent funding for the Land and Water Conservation Fund to create access, to have a funding mechanism to buy easements and rights of way to get access to landlocked federal lands for hunters. This is very, very important. Can get a little controversial for some people, but we think it's very important. Because if you can't get access, because it's landlocked, it's a missed opportunity. So we think that's very important. I have to say, we thought, Secretary Zinke was the MVP, for the industry of the administration with all the great things that his team did. Now, he's moved on. We're anxious to see who will be the new secretary.
Yes.
But in the meanwhile, Acting Secretary David Bernhardt has done a great job. He, was the deputy secretary under Zinke. And really helped push a lot of those initiatives that opened up all that land. So we're looking to see, who comes next in that job, and hopefully they'll continue the great work that Secretary Zinke did to create access. And we'll have a new person to report to on the on the advisory committee.
Well,
so.
It's also exciting the awareness level with National Shooting Sports Month and all of the things that he's done to really get people thinking about hunting and shooting in a way that's normal and human and all good. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really important. And Secretary Zinke was here last year, and on the last day of the SHOT Show, myself and a couple of other NSS staff joined him, and we went out to some BLM land to work on cleaning up, a shooting area, which is also very important. If you're going to go out on public land and shoot, be responsible. Be environment. Don't be that guy that leaves your trash, or a woman. Yes, sorry. Don't be that person. And that's really important. And so we had an opportunity to help clean up this shooting facility so it remains open, because we see BLM land getting closed for various reasons. And we're working as part of the. I chair the shooting committee, and you're on the committee with me. And we're trying to identify what land is closed and what can be done to get it opened up. So that's really important. So
we have to be ambassadors too. I find I was literally dragging a deer out this year, and I came across some hikers, and they started to run away from me. And man, please stop, please stop. I ended up in a wonderful discussion with them about the meat. It was going to my table. It was green, to use the vernacular, and how just wholesome that was, and how it was helping the environment. I started showing their browse line to them, what was going on in the forest. And they just are baffled, but then they were so enthralled, and then they walked away pro-hunting.
There was a great article recently in the Wall Street Journal about the whole taking new people out to hunt. We've got the NSSF has the +1 program, where we're trying to get more people to be involved in shooting and hunting of all different kinds.
Let's go hunting, let's go shooting.org. Great.
Exactly, right. So, and National Shooting Sports Month, Secretary Zinke signed a proclamation, and then last year, President Trump signed a proclamation, and I've talked to the White House, and they said they're going to do it again, which is fantastic. So raises awareness. And we want National Shooting Sports Month to be just like National Hunt and Fish Day, right? I mean, where it becomes an annual proclamation from whoever the president is, because it's not a Democrat or Republican thing. It's an American sport, an American tradition that everybody can participate in. We don't care what side of the aisle you're on. We just want you to go out there and exercise your constitutional rights and participate in hunting, great tradition and heritage, and target shooting, of all kinds. So we really appreciate it. So anyway, closing thoughts from both of you about what we think will happen in the future with the new secretary and access to land for hunting and shooting.
Yeah, I'm an optimist actually, and I travel a lot and I hunt a lot of public lands. And I see access opening up, and I see the changes, and I see that 80% of Americans still support hunting. And this is a great thing. This hasn't gone down. The Cecil line thing brought it down very temporarily, but basically it's all been very positive, very up. I've seen big changes in that regard, so I'm an optimist.
I agree. It's such an exciting time for shooting, recreational shooting, CCW holders. People are welcoming the idea of going to the range and learning about their rights and how to, it's really fantastic, and to have the support above is such a huge thing for that.
Yeah, this, I have to say, no question, this is the most pro-Second Amendment, pro-hunting, pro-shooting administration that we've ever seen in my lifetime. So, we're very fortunate to have the support, as you say, from the administration for these important issues for us. So, well, that's all we have time for now. This is Larry Keane from the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Thank you, Julie and Frank, for joining me, and we look forward to seeing you on the show floor. Goodbye, everybody.